Welcome to the Relentless podcast. So excited to have you here. We're here to help mission-driven entrepreneurs just like you take life and business to the next level. And today we have a very special guest all the way from LA in the USA. We have Miguel from Self-Made Training Facilities. Welcome, my brother. Thank you for joining us.
What's happening, my man?
Dude,
Thank you for having me.
you.
It's an honor to be on here, bro. You guys are doing some amazing things.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, brother. As are you, man. As are you. Matty Lavaz, my man. How are you going today, brother?
Yeah, good, man. Pumped for this podcast. Pumped to see where we take it.
Oh, man, it's been exciting. I mean, we've been pumped to have you on here, Miguel. And as I said to you before, we've been watching your journey for years and years, bro. And not only do you create some incredible things and obviously sharing your success with so many people, but I just love watching the level of peak performance and the standard that you uphold in physical, mental, emotional, in your family life. Like that's, to me, that's what real success is. Take the money and stuff aside. How you actually live day to day is what I believe success is all about. And man, I think we need more people like you in the world just sharing that inspiration. So again, brother, it's so good to have you here.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I would define that as like true wealth, right? Having that aspect of being able to not just be financially well off, but literally spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. I mean, all those aspects, that's true wealth. And that's what I've been making every effort and attempt to achieve every day of my life. Like tomorrow's not granted, wake up in gratitude and just take on the day as it comes.
So true, brother. Well, you're nailing it, man. You're nailing it. So again, keep doing what you're doing. But look, a lot of the Aussie guys may not know much about your story, bro. So I want to sort of share your journey and share really where you came from, because I'm always so interested in. Cool. We're looking at not even a finished product yet, but we're looking at the success and everything you've done now. But what made the man? What created this animal? So take us back, bro. Who was Miguel growing up in LA, and tell us about your journey from the beginning.
So I was actually born in Riverside, California, which is not the greatest neighborhood possible at all in California. And I was raised by a mother who was psychologically not all there, lots of abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. And then by the age of 12, and then my father was a drug addict, alcoholic. So didn't really have the best upbringing. And by the age of 12, my mom abandoned me. And the year before the year that my mom abandoned me, my father actually left us. And so we had a whole year without a father. Then my mom reconnected with my father, told my father, hey, I need you to watch the kids for at least 2 to 3 weeks. They haven't seen you all year. I'll come back and get them in a couple weeks, and you guys can reconnect and bond. Well, a couple weeks passed, she never showed up. A couple months passed, she never showed up. 6 months passed, never showed up. Years passed, never showed up. So literally abandoned by my mother at the age of 12. So at the age of 12, with no real presence of any parents, any real guidance, navigating this crazy world, I turned to drugs and alcohol. I turned to the gang life. I was able to hang out with the homies. That was like my family per se. And a lot of kids, that have no structure and have no parents involved, that's what they turn to, especially in those type of neighborhoods. And then by the age of 16, my father committed a crime that landed him in prison for 22 years. And at this point, at 16, I actually got into wrestling. So thank God I got into sports and I got into wrestling, and I loved it because I was able to get all that physical anger, aggression, and put it on the mat. I was able to legally beat somebody up on the mat and take my aggression out, and I was very good at it. So I was able to lean on that as my father got incarcerated. My stepmother, who hated us because we were, like I said, abandoned there. Like we weren't supposed to be living with them. We weren't even supposed to be with them. So we were a burden or, a headache for that new family that my father created after he left. So she kicked us out. I came home from wrestling practice one day. She said, your dad got 22 years. There's no way I can take care of you guys. I don't want you guys here. And I remember when she answered the door, I asked her, like, what do you expect us to do? What are we supposed to do? And her exact words were like, figure it out. So At 16, my brother was 15 at the time. We're turning 16, 17. This was my junior year in high school. I grabbed our bags, and luckily, I've always been a hustler because we weren't rich, we were poor kids. We didn't, so I was able to always have a hustle. Like whether I'd be throwing parties in people's backyards, burning CDs and selling them for $5, collecting collectibles, baseball cards, and hustling those off on the side. So I always made money one way or another. And then I also got into selling drugs, which was not something I'm proud of. It's just a part of my story. But at the end of the day, it was like sink or swim. My back was against the wall. I had to support ourselves. I had to support me and my brother. So I grabbed our stuff, and we've been in the system before, me and my younger brother. So we didn't want to go to foster care. We didn't want to get separated. So I told him, pack the stuff, put it in the car. And the first night we slept in the car, and we did that for about 8 months, 9 months. And in the transition, I still went back to school because I loved wrestling. Wrestling, it literally saved my life and it molded me to the man that I am today. So I was able to get into wrestling, went back to school. My brother dropped out. I ended up finishing school. But by the time my wrestling coach, my assistant wrestling coach, found out that I was living on the streets, he approached me after practice and said, "Hey, look, I know what's going on." And of course, I'm denying it because I didn't want to get separated. But he said, "Look, you got to let me help you." So he luckily graduated in '97, and this was in year 1999. And I graduated in 2000. But in '99, he approached me and he said, "Hey, I asked my dad if you can sleep on our floor." So luckily, I was able to sleep on the floor. By the time I turned 18, my senior year in high school, I ended up getting a job at homegrocer.com, which is a graveyard shift, working from 10 p.m. till early morning. And then from early morning, going straight back to school and going to school, wrestling practice, get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then do that again. So I did that my whole senior year. And I was literally surviving every day. I remember when I was homeless, I mean, I didn't know where the next meal was coming from. I actually went from a 160-pound kid down to a 135-pound kid because in literally 8 months lost 30 pounds. And I was just telling people I was cutting weight, because typically wrestlers, that's what we do. And it was a great excuse at the time, but then it caught up. And, when I was all bones and pale white because I was malnourished, didn't know where my food was coming from, didn't know where I was going to sleep. I remember sleeping in, behind schools. I remember sleeping in alleyways. I remember sleeping at people's garages. Like I would sneak in. They would let me sleep in their garage because I didn't want them telling their parents. And I did this my whole junior year. And then my senior year, like I said, I got a job. I was able to get my own place. And right after I graduated high school, I was very fortunate. I was excelling in wrestling. I made it to state. I ended up fracturing my ankle in state. I was trying to get a scholarship. My full attempt was to get a scholarship because I was like, what am I going to do? I'm either going to join the Army or get a scholarship and go to college because I actually wanted to go to college. And I ended up fracturing my ankle. Still won the match in double overtime, but I had to throw in the card. I couldn't wrestle. I couldn't continue the tournament. I got a partial to Cerritos College in here in Orange County, and even with a partial scholarship, they were going to cover some housing and some schooling. I couldn't afford that. I tried to get grants. I got denied grants because they couldn't allocate my parents. They couldn't know where my parents were at. Couldn't get signatures stating that I was low income. I actually have documentation in my Facebook where I have an album on there that says oldies but goodies. You can go to my Facebook account and you'll see everything I'm telling you. I actually have a reference. For some reason, at the age of 12, I knew I was going to become something. I knew something was going to come out of this. So I documented everything. I mean, every match I won, newspaper articles in the Press Enterprise when I won my state or I won my match in state, dockets to when I spent some time in county jail. I kept everything because I knew I was going to have the ability to tell this story one day. And it's so crazy. Fast forward now, 20 years into entrepreneurship, this is what I'm doing. And I actually we call it back in the day in the hood, we call these receipts. I got receipts. I got proof. That this was my life, and I overcame it because of the mindset that I had at a very young age. I had the ability to have the gift to grow up and make things happen out of nothing, regardless of the situation. And wrestling got me out of gangbanging. Like I stopped hanging out with those guys. I started hanging out more with the jocks. It gave me a completely different look at life. Also, it showed me how the world is different because my wrestling brothers were all demographics. I mean, every race you can think of to a certain degree. I mean, we all blended together and called each other a family. So the family that I always wanted through the gangs, I actually got through my wrestling brothers. And we protected each other. We respected each other, protected each other. We pushed each other every day to become better. And our wrestling coach was phenomenal. I remember he instilled in us, for every move, there's a counter move. And he also stated that in life that for every problem, there's a solution. So always remember that. And that stuck with me till this day. I use that a lot. For every problem, there's a solution. If I can create the solution for this world's problems, I'll be a very wealthy man. And I've applied that into everything that I do. Graduated high school, was about to join the Army. I decided to elect away from the Army. I took the test. I took the physical. I was literally in line to get sworn in. And something inside me told me this is not for me. As soon as they were yelling in my ear, like that control aspect just wasn't for me. Nothing against it. I respect, we love first responders. We love our servicemen and women, but it just wasn't for me. Something in my gut was Miguel, you're set to do something better. And I elected to go out. I remember the recruiter on the whole way home cursing me out, calling me every name you can think of, because obviously I was a paycheck for him. But ended up getting into construction, got into commercial plumbing. I hated it, but it was the only thing I can do. I didn't go to college. I didn't have the ability to go to college. I wanted to be a fireman. I was like trying to get my grants to go to fire academy. Fire academy at that time was Monday through Friday, full time, 8 hours a day. I was working construction already. There's no way I could complete the courses. So I just had no other outs. I stuck to construction. And I remember I was like, I'm good with my hands. And I have a work ethic like no other. I don't mind work. I love working. And I was actually making decent money. I was making prevailing wages, what they call it. So I was making double what minimum wage was at 19 years old, 18 years old. And I did that for about 3 to 4 years. And I started off as a laborer. Then I got into the apprenticeship program to the journeyman program. And then I went to ABC Construction, with ABC School, which is America's Builders and Contractors, to get my journeyman's license. In that process, I had a plan. I was like, look, I'm going to get my journeyman's license. I'm going to become a foreman, from a foreman to a project manager, to a project manager, to eventually own my own construction company. I was like, that's all I can do. That's the only other options I have. By the time I got to the third year, going into the fourth year, I hated it. The manual work wasn't difficult. I just felt like there was so much more in me to do something. So then I ended up meeting this person, which her father was a big wig in real estate. He was at Century 21, right? And he was a phenomenal man, like great mentor. I didn't even know he was my mentor until later on the road. He mentored me in real estate. But I remember we would go over to his house for dinner, and every time we'd have dinner, the family's discussing how their work week was, or how's the week of school, how's this, how's that. And, a little 20-year-old punk kid, I was like, fuck my job. I hate it. That shit sucks. It's not for me. It's like they treat me like shit. They feel like, even though I'm on my way to becoming an apprentice journeyman, they treat me like a laborer, always complaining and bitching, just being a 20-year-old kid. Okay. And I remember one time, after repetitively having that happen, he put his hand down and said, well, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And I'm like, and I'm a pretty alpha male. Like, I grew up in the streets. I grew up with my hands fighting all the time. And I kind of puffered up, kind of like in a defense mode, like, well, hey, how dare you talk to me that way? But something again inside me, like that intuition that says, like, Miguel, listen, you need to listen. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I told him. And he says, well, you keep complaining, you keep bitching about your job, but you ain't doing nothing about it. Week after week after week, you're still going back to the job. So what are you going to do about it? And I went like this. I was like, dude, I'm good with these. That's it. I have no college education. I don't know what else I can do. And it's like, I haven't gone to college. And back then, the mindset that I was programmed through high school and elementary and middle school, right? You're programmed that you have to go to school, get an education, get a degree, and maybe you'll get a good job. Okay. That was a mindset that if I don't have a college degree, there's no way I could become a 6-figure earner or become anything in this world. So he said, Miguel, look, you need to sell real estate. And I was like, well, what's real estate? And he was like, real estate, the homes. So I was like building them? Like, yeah, that's what I do. I do commercial and I do residential. No, he said, no, you need to sell the home. I was like, well, what is it? And as he's explaining to me what real estate is, I've always had this thing as a kid, like I mimic the great to be great. If I want something, I don't get envious or jealous. I ask, well, how'd you do it? So as he's explaining to me real estate, my mind, I'm looking at this man, good looking, in shape, beautiful house on the golf course, two brand new Mercedes outside. His family loves him, very wealthy, successful. I'm like, shit, okay, what I got to do? That's exactly what I said. I said, all right, what do I got to do? Didn't even second guess it. This is where I say procrastination is death. Like you have a thought, an idea, and you want to become something better. And sometimes those windows of opportunities, they're when you least expect it. I wasn't expecting that conversation. And instead of questioning, well, I'm not going to be good at it, or no, I don't think it's for me, or shit, I want his life. So if he's telling me I need to do real estate and I want his life, okay, what do I got to do? Told me I got to get my online books. And I told him, hey, look, I'm not very proud of this, but I really can't read that well. It's like, I don't even know how to type. I was like, don't worry about it, Miguel. Learn how to pass the test. I'll teach you real estate. Okay. And then I was like, all right, cool. So I took the test. I took the prerequisites online, studied, did the best I could. And, but at the time, at that age, at 20 years old, I was a functioning drug addict alcoholic. I partied. I did drugs on the weekends. I worked my ass off Monday through Friday. Come Monday morning, go to work, pretend like nothing happened. I was like that youth in me still, but that functioning thing. And that's all I knew. My father introduced me to drugs and alcohol at the age of 12. I had my first tall can beer with my dad. The only time we would bond is when he was drunk after his ass and he would tell me he loved me then. That's the only time we bonded. So I thought that was normal. It's like you don't know any different. So I set up my state test and I failed it. And then I was like, fuck. So I signed up again. I failed it again. At this time, I'm still partying on the weekends. I go take the test on the Monday and Tuesday. It's $100 every time I fail. At that time, $100 was a lot of money. And I'm like, fuck, dude. And I actually failed it 11 times. Okay. Not because I was dumb or stupid or just didn't know what the hell I was doing. I wasn't committed to myself and I wasn't committed to what I wanted to do. I was self-sabotaging myself with alcohol, with partying, still being that insecure young kid, because that's what it was. I didn't love and respect me because I always dealt with abandonment. My father left me, my mother left me. Like, that was just like I self-sabotaged. Now looking back, that's exactly what I was doing. But at the moment, you don't know this. And I decided after the 11th time, I remember I got home from work. Back then it was before emails. I opened up my mail. There was the letter stating me I failed again. And I was like, you have 30 days. You can retake the test in another 30 days. So this is already 11 months into this. Okay. So every 30 days I was able to take a test. I just basically in my mind wasted 11 months. But it also was a very pivotal point in my life because I remember I got home, I read it, I was pissed off, I was like angry at the world, I was blaming everybody else, like, well, fuck it, I don't care, I'll just do construction. I jumped in the shower to get ready to go to the gym. No matter what, I was still functioning, like I said, in drugs and alcohol, but no matter what, Monday through Friday, I went to the gym. Monday through Thursday, I went to the gym. I've always had that in my system. For some reason, it always kept me in that gray area, not completely going in the dark. And I got out of the shower and I remember wiping down the mirror. And it's so vividly, like wiping down the mirror, getting ready, brushing my teeth, shaving real quick. Because no matter what, every time I go to the gym, I'm OCD and I have ADHD. Like my house is always immaculate. I'm always well put together. Like that's always been since I was a kid. And I remember I looked up and I was like, fuck. I was like, Miguel, what the fuck are you going to do about it? What are you going to do right here? I didn't go to the gym. I got on my phone. And I called my closest friends. I had a circle of friends that we always partied together every weekend. Like we would always figure out by Friday, we knew what we were doing for the weekend. And I called them all and I said, hey, this upcoming Friday, please don't call me. Please don't bother me. Don't even like come over to the house because this is before text messaging and before DMs and anything else. I was like, just don't come to my house because I was the only guy with his own apartment at that age. And I was like, leave me alone for these next 30 days. I need to study for my real estate test. They laughed. They're like, Miguel, you're fucking crazy. I'll see you Friday. Come Friday, I ignored everybody. For the first time since the age of 12, I stayed away from drugs and alcohol for 30 days. I studied. I literally focused, put 100% effort, not 110, not 90, like 100% effort into passing this test. And I go take the test and I pass it with flying colors, you know? That right there was pivotal because if I would have gave up and quit, I wouldn't have the life that I have today. Because real estate is what got me into business. It got to me in true entrepreneurship, legal entrepreneurship, where I was able to actually learn the business through a great mentor. Okay. My first year in real estate at 22, 23 years old, I made 132,000, six figures, my very first six figures. I made four times the amount that I was making as a commercial plumber back then. And that right there changed my life, dude. And from there, I learned how to incorporate. I learned how to create business structures. I learned about sales even further. One thing that my mentor told me when he first told me I need to get into real estate, he was like, "Hey, you're very charismatic. You're bilingual, and dude, everybody likes you." Because I tend to get along with everybody. Like I can pick up and feel like we've known each other for years just based on some of the conversations that we have. And I was able to apply those skill sets into real estate and then developed other skill sets when it comes to entrepreneurship and the sales of how to run, how to do sales. And I was doing things very different than most. A lot of people in real estate back then, they had this like dinosaur philosophy, the door knocking, open houses. And this is when Facebook was coming out pretty aggressively and everybody started doing videos. But the videos were like with classical music. You had a filter of pictures going in rotation. And me, I did it different. I actually took the video. I would showcase the home. I would talk on camera. They're still on my Facebook actually. And I would put different type of music in the background. I put some Zapp and Roger, which is some funk. I'd put some Tupac, which is like California living, like all stuff that would grab people's attention, and that grabbed my sales to increase. And I made a crushing. My second year in real estate, I crushed it again, doubled my income. My third year in real estate, tripled my income. And then by my fourth year in real estate, I ended up to opening up my own brokerage. So by 2007, 2008, I opened up my own brokerage, which is Realty World and Associates. Ran that aggressively. By 2009, I made my first million in real estate. I sold 98 homes in 1 year in a recession. When everybody was getting out of the market, I reinvented and just created this consumer base that they couldn't say no to me. All it was is answering my phone, putting attention to detail, getting them a response, giving them enough information for them to make an educated decision. They were using me for real estate. And also what I did is people that couldn't afford properties from 2003 to 2009 that were inflated, like by 2007, 2008, they were like super inflated. Okay. And they couldn't afford the properties. I stayed in contact with them through Facebook. So every time their kid had a birthday, hey, happy birthday. Every time they had an event, hey, how'd that event go? Like it was my constant contact in front of them at all times. So when the market shifted and it bottomed out in 2009, 2010, oh, dude, I was selling homes left and right. But at the same token, you give a young kid like myself with no real direction, no real taste of wealth. I was actually very rich. I wasn't wealthy. And just as rich as I was, as rich as I lost it by 2012. I overextended myself financially. I put myself in a very bad situation with loans, putting myself with mortgages and house and cars and having every BMW you can think of at the time and living this lifestyle because the money was coming in, but not expecting what would the shift happen when I lost all my agents because I had another brokerage come in offering a way better incentive at a flat rate when they were offering 100% commissions and I was doing 80-20 splits or 90-10 10 splits. They weren't committed to me and they weren't loyal to me because I treated them just like a ticket item. There's no value there. There's like, here's the lead, go service it, pay me my money. So that pride and ego took over me and basically I went bankrupt by 2012. And when I went bankrupt in 2012, I was already accustomed to a certain way of living. I didn't blame anybody besides myself. I took full responsibility. Again, looking in the mirror to a certain degree, right? What the fuck am I going to do about it? So I said, okay, look, don't love nothing, doesn't love you back. Gave everything back, which was very difficult to do. They even took some of my rental properties and sold them off. But it was one of the most humbling and best things that have ever happened to me. Besides, going homeless and broke back then. But this was I was 30 years old and I was like, shit, I hit rock bottom again. So what am I going to do about it? So my personal real estate was always doing well. Okay, I just overextended myself. I had more bills than the income coming in. So since I was accustomed to having a certain lifestyle, I said, well, I'm going to do some personal training out of the garage. Since I've done personal training before, off and on, I used to work for Bally's Total Fitness, which was a big corporate gym back then. And so I've always been in love with health and fitness. Health and fitness have kept me like right on that gray area to not overexceed myself. And keep in mind, throughout this whole time, I'm still abusing drugs and I'm still abusing alcohol. But I was a functioning drug addict alcoholic. No one would even know. I called myself a weekend warrior. I bust my ass up Monday through Friday. Come weekends, gone. Okay. So by 2012, decided to start training people out of the garage. And at this point, I got into bodybuilding. I wanted to compete again. And so we're doing the training out of the garage. I had about 10 grand saved up in the account. I spent 5,000 on Craigslist to buy the gym equipment. But if anybody knows me, I kid you not, I'm OCD and I'm ADHD. So my attention to detail to everything, I don't cut any corners. Between my low riders to whatever I build and touch, I don't cut corners. So my garage was just a garage, white walls, and then that's it. So what I did, I epoxied the floor. I did a neutral color in the inside, given that it was in a home. I did surround sound, cam lightings, and luckily on Craigslist, I found a gym equipment package. I was all white and black, very clean. It's on my Facebook as well. And I was like, 5 grand, here you go. So I opened up the gym, Self-Made Fitness, inside my garage, my 3-car garage. Did that for about a year, outgrew it. Decided to say, hey, I'm going to take this clientele and we're going to go to a kickboxing studio that allows us to still do what we do. And then they can, still run their operations, but we have a section in their kickboxing studio. Sold all my gym equipment in the garage, decided to shift all my business over there. And within 60 days, like 2 months, dude, they closed their doors. Locks on the doors. They weren't paying their lease. They evicted them. So we lost everything. At this point, I have a book of business. We have nowhere to go. So we're like, holy shit, what do we do? So my intention, given that I used to work for Bally's, I was like, I'll just go to a corporate gym. When I was working at Bally's, I was just doing sales. I wasn't doing personal training. So I didn't know exactly what the personal trainers would make. I thought that was the initial package that they would sell. So I was like, I'll just go to 24-Hour Fitness. Go to 24-Hour Fitness, interview with those guys. Of course, they're like, yes, come on board. We want to keep you. We want to do this. And I was like, all right, this is my book of business. I charge X amount. This is what I do. I would like to retain my business. So unfortunately, we can't do that, but we're going to generate more business for you, paying you minimum wage. I was like, that doesn't make sense at all. So then I decided to say, okay, look, this is not okay. And plus they kept you in a box. I was like, I'm going to go to EOS. Same thing there. I went to Gold's. Same thing there. I went to every big box gym in Temecula, and everybody had the same response. No different, no other. Same pay, same response. I'm like, how is somebody even going to sustain a business or a career in something that they love doing in personal training? Especially some of these guys have their degrees. Some of them are highly certified, and they're not able to generate an actual business out of it. So the light hit. How many trainers just like myself need a place to go? And that's where Self-Made training facility got evolved from. I looked at all the problems in the industry of private personal training or personal training in boutiques, big box gyms, and also the boutique gyms like your CrossFits, like your Infrareds, like all the boutique gyms that are doing any type of boot camps, any type of CrossFit, strength training, powerlifting camps, all that good stuff. I dissected every one of them. And the number one key component that I found is that they put more value in the establishment and the equipment than they do the actual individual, the human being that is getting another human being to believe in themselves through health and fitness to achieve their goals that they're dealing with, whether it's saving their life or improving their life. So you can't discount that and devalue that just because you have the gym or you just have the equipment and the establishment or leads. I learned everything that I messed up in my office, my real estate office, and I flipped it. Instead of worrying about the money, I'm going to worry about the service and the value of the independent contractor, trainers just like me that need their space, but they can't afford to open up their own space. So decided to open up my very first location, was 3,900 square feet. We almost didn't open it up. They actually denied me on my lease because of my bankruptcy. I fought that, told him, hey, I've never been late on everything prior to this situation. Please give me an opportunity. He did. He was like, all right, cool, but you got to give me first and last month and double security deposit. At this time, I've already saved up about $75,000. I said, okay, here's a check for 25. I got 50,000. I built my gym under 10 grand for the one in the 3-car garage. I was like, oh, 50,000 would be enough. Got the space, signed off my life again. And okay, here we go. Got this dream, got this thing. We're going to make this happen. And I was going to focus on independent contracting and personal trainers and teaching them entrepreneurship in the space of health and fitness. By the time I got to the mirrors, floors, and paint, I ran out of money. Luckily, I had a 1972 Suburban, original 3-door with the deliveries, a super rare Suburban, beautiful Chevy car that I built from the ground up. I had a 2012 Road King, customized, featured in Hot Bikes magazine, all lowridered out. I sold those 2 items to finish the gym. And it was difficult to do because these are like the things I was able to keep through bankruptcy. I was like, oh my God, this is like still my investment here, my life savings. But I knew this thing would work. For some reason, again, that intuition, that gut feeling, I go with it. And I said, this is going to work. And we opened up. We're busting the seams at the first location. And instead of going big like I did with my real estate office, I decided to not lease out the second office next to us. I decided to say, okay, look, let's see if this works somewhere else. This was in Temecula, California. I decided to move it to Corona, California. Corona, California is about a good 40 minutes away, 30 miles or so, give or take. And it's right around the corner from my other neighborhood, Riverside. Corona would be considered more the higher end of Riverside County. And to see if this works. And instead of 3,900 square feet or smaller, I decided to go slightly bigger, which was 4,400 square feet. Unknowing, I opened up directly across the street from corporate UFC. And by the time I was ready to open the door, I took 14 trainers from corporate UFC in 1 week. They all worked for me, and they all were independent contractors with us. And from there, busting out the seams at the second location, I got contacted. They were asking, what am I doing? Why am I taking all these trainers? I said, look, this is the concept that I have, and they obviously can't match it or can't beat it. I decided to open up my third location, which was in the transition, decided to start franchising. I knew I had something great. I was contacted. Someone offered me $2 million to sell. I told him no. I said, look, I'm going to move forward. Contacted an attorney and say, hey, I have this idea. My attorney was like, is no one doing this in the industry? I was like, no, not to this extent. They're more focused on gym memberships. I'm focused on service of entrepreneurship with the personal trainers. And I'm developing the system to add even more value to this as time goes on. I was like, well, if you can make all this work, would it work? He asked me 2 questions about franchising. It's like, if you want to franchise, you got to have 2 things. You have the ability to, one, make this work anywhere in the United States, because I know you just don't want to focus on California. I was like, okay, so can this work anywhere in the United States? And I said, I don't know if I can. He said, why do you say that? I was like, well, we're a very unique look. You know, the red equipment, the music, the graffiti, the motivational raps, all the stuff that is more urban, high-end kind of gym. I don't know if this would work everywhere else. And he was like, well, how can you find out? Right after high school, I moved to Newport Beach for a couple years to try to get out of the gang life again and get out of the trouble that I was getting myself into. And then when I moved to Newport Beach, I was in a different demographic. I looked different. People treated me differently. That stereotype, it was real back then. And I remember that. And I said, shit, if this concept can work anywhere in Orange County, this can work anywhere in the United States. And I was like, all right. So I had three places: Costa Mesa, Irvine, or Newport Beach. I found a place in Costa Mesa. The Costa Mesa was 10,800 square feet, almost 11,000 square feet. I was like, I went big. Same thing happened there. Busting at the seams, huge marketing. And this was all done through social media. It was all done through Facebook and Instagram. And built all these locations, these 3 locations, decided to franchise. Within a year, I got franchise approval, which is very difficult to do here in California. And sold 6 franchises with 1 week. Fast forward, we're 9 years in with the situation with COVID, with my divorce, and other setbacks. And we actually had to stop selling at one point because we were growing too fast. With all this said and done, we have 25 open operating locations. We have another 6 being built out right now. And then we have another 13 in pre-approval stages right now. We're in 9 different states. We're working on our very first international deal in Beijing. And we're growing, dude. And this is, all geared towards developing other people in personal training and entrepreneurship. our focus as a company is to keep the value within the trainer, teach them how to run an efficient business. We're more of an institution of education that happens to have a gym attached to it. And these trainers get to keep 100% of their earnings, and their investment to use the facility is at a very reasonable entry fee. And we manage between 35 and 60 trainers per location and growing. Some locations, like if it's 9,000 square feet or less, we require 35 trainers. If it's 9,001 square feet above, we require 45 trainers. And these guys are meeting their max. And at the end of the day, we also, through COVID, decided to become exclusive and also, was the word essential that they were using at the time. So we took 2,000 square feet, we subdivided them in 500 square foot offices. So we have a chiropractor, we have a doctor and nurse on staff when it comes to IV drip, infrared sauna studios, cryo chamber studios, and we lease those out to our independent contractors as businesses within our business, almost like a mall strip of health and fitness under one spot. And like I said, we're growing, and that's like the quick real recap.
It's killer, man. Congratulations, bro, on what you've done and how far you've come. It's just, it's massive, man. Like you got. I feel like we probably need to do 2 podcasts because I got so many questions I want to ask you based on your story.
That was the PG version. I was trying to wrap it up. There's so many pivotal points in my life. Like, I was literally tortured as a kid. Like my mom would beat me, and Black and Blue beat me. And then love on you the next minute. Like it was the weirdest shit. Like looking back now, I have 2 beautiful daughters, and there's no way I could ever do that. Right. So it's my life. I should have either been in prison, dead, or definitely heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol still. I have 8 years sobriety now. Self-made actually saved my life, dude. Because one thing I'm not is I'm not a hypocrite. The person you see online, the person you see in person, that's exactly who I am. And my first year owning Self-Made, dude, I'm promoting wealth and fitness and entrepreneurship and these skill sets. But yet come Friday night, I disappear till Sunday morning or Sunday night. And then back to the motivational, I got you this. I'm going to help you be successful. Imagine living with that for a year, dude. Like you see yourself in the mirror, like I'm a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
It's like, how am I? Yeah, I'm still financially successful, but I don't love and respect myself. Yeah. I'm still that insecure kid, that abandoned kid looking for, because if you think about it, drinking and doing drugs, you're escaping from something. That's all it is. You're escaping, running away from something, if you're heavily into it. And so after a year of that, after a binge of Father's Day weekend, I woke up one day, I was like, dude, I'm done with this shit. And I haven't looked back. So I don't drink. I don't do anything, no drugs, no alcohol for 8 years. June 19th of this year will be my 8th year.
Congrats, man. That's
huge achievement.
Thank you, bro.
There's 2 things. The first one is like just in that last thing that you said about self-made saved you. That's such a powerful thing. I talk about that with my journey, and I know a lot of people can relate to it for themselves. It's like if you're in a shit situation in your life, it's a great idea to get something outside of you that forces you to change for other people. And I think that's in our makeup, and I think that's why. The more selfish you become and only focused on yourself, it's like hard to get out of struggles. But if you sign up for, like you said, a family and a workplace and a community where you're like, well, I'm going to become this person. And then you look in your closet and you go, fuck, I'm going to clean this shit up because I'm not congruent if I don't do it. And that's a really powerful message for people. And, I know Andy and I can both relate to that in our journeys as well. I wanted to ask you, man, one of the themes that I was hearing throughout your whole story there is you've taken so many risks and you've been hit so many times. It wasn't just once, it was like constantly. And then you built yourself back up and then you got hit again. And then you built yourself back up and then you got hit again. And then it happened again. And so, I speak to a lot of people that, and especially here in Australia is different to the US where, I love how focused you are on entrepreneurship. We're very much that, but in Australia, entrepreneurship is not as attractive. We're much more middle class, working class. Who are you to go out and do something great? Like that tall poppy syndrome is pretty big here. So a lot of people have goals, but then they go, well, what if I fail? What if I make a mistake? And you've just taken risk after risk after risk, especially that last part of the story. You have to, you didn't even do the figures on that 50K for the gym. You're just
Hmm.
like, let me see what's going to happen. So you're obviously thinking,
Yeah.
I'm going to find a way. And then you run out of cash, you sell your bike and your car, and you
Hmm.
make it happen. Have you always had, do you think, a relationship with risk where you just thought, I have to find a way? Or do you have like a philosophy on risk and failure and, taking action no matter what and finding a way? Because it's obviously a massive part of what's got you to where you are right now.
Yeah. I call it procrastination is death. Okay. Procrastination is death. What I mean by that, if you procrastinate on a thought and idea, you're digging your own grave. I might as well give you the shovel and say, hey, here, go ahead, dig it. I don't want to be that guy 10 years from now say, oh, I thought of that. I wish I would have done it. Or I should have made the attempt to do that, but I was too scared. Right. The mentality that I have is from wrestling. You think about it, a wrestler, MMA fighter, a boxer, anybody in that category or sport, right? You're basically going to battle somebody one on one, another physical human being. That fear and excitement is something I can't really explain. It's such a, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And at the same token, I look at it as if I do it and I lose, right? It's that is a learning chapter of my life, not totally failure. You only fail when you quit. And that's one thing I don't do. I don't quit. I don't have that in my DNA. I don't have that in my blood. I don't say, okay, I'll fuck it on to the next. Because typically with a lot of entrepreneurs, they get a little setback. Oh, I'll go do this instead. Or I'll go do this instead. Right. Or I'll just go back to work my 9 to 5. I have no other option. So I have no family. I have no ability to depend on a father or mother to hand me a grant, to hand me a loan, or say, "Hey, I'll take care of this." No, I haven't had that since I was 12. I completely lost it at 16. So that flight or fight mode is literally in my DNA, and I look at it as like just like real estate. I always go back to that day. If I would have quit, if I would have told the guy no, there's no way I've had my life today. Not even close. I'd still be in construction probably. Okay. Or worse, who knows? Because I wouldn't have any direction. I have no destination to attach. So having that ability to like look at fear as more of an encouragement and motivating, I was like, I look at it as like, what if something good happens? Shit, I'm going to be good at it. And the times that I failed and still didn't quit because like I didn't quit real estate. I still am in real estate. I just don't have a brokerage. I took that same concept and I applied it into fitness. So I'm still in that same space of servicing people and servicing our consumers. So it's again learning from the mistakes because every mistake is like you're going back to school. You're learning from it. You're evolving. Now, one thing I haven't done is repeat my mistakes twice. That's one thing I haven't done, and that's a beautiful thing that I can look back 23 years in entrepreneurship. That shit, that's pretty good. That's a good track record because every time I've hit a new peak, I stumble a little bit and then I hit this peak and then I get this peak and I go up and then okay a little bit 2 steps back and then 5 steps ahead again. So having that ability, that mindset to like, what if? Because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So why wait on it? Why procrastinate? Why even have the thought of failure? And if you failed, what did you learn from it? How can you learn from that to put into a different type of skill set or a different type of business or same business but a different approach? You know?
Huge, man. Yeah, so big. Again, hats off to you, brother. You've done so much. This story is epic. You have you written a book yet or what, bro? This has got to
Yeah,
be
dude,
documented.
you're
Let's get
you're
this.
you're like you're like the eighth person that's asked me that this year, believe it or not, dude.
Yeah, man.
And for some reason, I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
Like
100.
I'm still not there, dude. And even though I've accomplished a lot more than most, I got so much more to go, bro. So if I write a book, it'll be, book one of like three because
Hey,
this is just one chapter, who's to
exactly.
say what happens with the exit? Who says, we don't get to 250 locations. And then I venture out because I own 6 companies total. Okay. I run and operate 6 companies, successful companies. I own the franchising. I own corporate headquarters, which is the mirror of the franchising. I own SLFMD Family, the apparel that is sold in all our facilities. I own SLFMD BTR water, which is alkaline water and spring water, and that is sold in all our facilities. The equipment that you see in these facilities, that's our equipment. I own and operate and manufacture that overseas and get it here to the States at a huge discount to my franchisees. And then I own self-made real estate. So I'm still running. Like I just got done doing a flip in Long Beach. Was featured on HGTV with Flipping 101 with my boy Tarek. And so I'm still running and operating all this stuff while still taking care of myself.
Yeah.
I'm real big on that. Like I'm not trying to sound selfish or egotistic, but I come first.
Mm.
Because if you really think about it, if I don't take care of me, how can I take care of my kids? If I don't take care of me, how can I take care of my wife? If I don't take care of me, how can I take care of my franchisees?
Yeah.
Right? If I don't love and respect myself, how can I love and respect somebody else? And that was the problem. Like pre my sobriety, I didn't love myself. I didn't respect myself, even though I did well financially. The money didn't make me happy. Like, until this day, the money still doesn't make me happy. It's the process, the destination, that the drive of like, okay, how can I fix this? Or how can I make this better?
It's huge, bro. I'm really curious about your comeback the first time. So, look, I always say I never judge an entrepreneur on sort of where they're at and the glitz and the glamour of the now. I always judge an entrepreneur on how they fucking showed up in the hard times. I love the war stories, bro, because that's the difference that makes a difference. People think about entrepreneurship and business and they think it's just rainbows and lollipops all the time. And this is why so many people get into business and they bail, they take the knee so quickly because they don't understand that it is ups and downs, and it is about taking beatings and being strong enough mentally and emotionally to get back up. So, brother, I'm curious just about your mental and emotional state when you went bankrupt. Tell us a little bit about how did that feel? How did that impact you for months or a year or whatever afterwards? And then what did you do mentally and emotionally to sort of regroup, recondition yourself and come back and become the man that you are now?
I look at it as like a walk in the park. I have a different life than most because of my background, right? Like truly hitting rock bottom, because my first setback, my real setback was my bankruptcy, right? In a sense of business and financially, in that sense, because I've earned all this money and then I lost it all. But prior to that, if you take it all the way back to my high school days, imagine living out of your car, not knowing where you're going to eat. Imagine sleeping in alleyways, not knowing if somebody's going to try to beat you up, rape you, or who knows what in these fucking ghetto ass neighborhoods. Okay. Imagine that feeling. The bankruptcy was like a walk in the park. I was like, I have my health. I'm active. I got my mind. I'm good. I took it and I said, okay, instead of, again, going to buy my wrestling mindset, like the ability to not blame anybody. Like if I won a match, I share with my team. I share with my coach, my teammates, because they pushed me so hard to be that number one athlete. But if I lost, I fucked up. It's my responsibility. Hone in, dissect it, but don't let it define you. Because if it defines you, you quit. There's no. How do I make this better? How do I not get stuck in this move again? Right? And I looked at bankruptcy, and when I finally figured out that I had to file, I was like, all right, this is a learning experience. What did I do? What led me to this position? Dissect that, understand it, don't let it happen again. What will be next? And this is where people need to be aware and need to be clear-minded, and they need to understand that opportunity presents itself when you least expect it, right? Who would have thought self-made would have been so big? And again, if I didn't sell those items and not been so materialistic, right? If I would have been materialistic, my pride and joy and so attached to an item, I wouldn't have the success I have today. The first location would have never gone up. So when bankruptcy hit, I look at it two ways. Look, I have no one to depend on. I got to take full responsibility. What am I going to do next? How am I going to fix this? How am I going to create the solutions for this? How many more deals do I need to close to make a living again in real estate to eventually do this? I'm accustomed to this lifestyle. What do I got to do? How many people do I got to train per week while still doing real estate? I calculated everything. You got to get a plan in action and then take action. That's it. Don't dwell on it. And then the other aspect is like, dude, I have my ability for handling stress, anxiety, depression, all that shit. I literally go train. I go to the gym. I punch a bag. I wrestle. I go and do jujitsu. Like I go do things that was going to beat me up physically, so I have no time to be sorry for myself. That's it.
Yeah.
Physical activity, I mean, the natural endorphins that you get from this stuff. I mean, imagine that. Imagine you're having a bad day. Okay, go to the fucking gym. You're having a good day. Go to the gym. Any emotion, go fucking do something. Be active. Go outside. Punch a bag. You will have so much clarity after you do that that you can have the solutions for whatever that little problem may be. Because if you let emotions, like you got to think about it, especially us men, there's nothing wrong with being emotionally intelligent. You have to be emotionally intelligent. You have to hone in. Like that fear, okay, where is it coming from and why? Doesn't mean like, oh, where's it coming from? It's going to kill me. No, okay, why? If I'm sad, why? If I'm happy, why? And then you address it. And that's simple.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but it's work.
Well, it's a common thread though. Like if we've interviewed a bunch of really successful people, and we've got great relationships with people like yourself, and that's a common thread. A common thread is that they have a strong relationship with fitness, and it serves as a metaphor for everything in their life. And I think it's another interesting thing, when people don't have that, they don't handle stress as well. It's just, I think it's a common thing. Man, I want to ask you a question about responsibility, because we kind of started talking about this before we hit record. I watched this on the news yesterday. This is happening currently in Portland. They've stopped fining people for speeding, and they've stopped they've stopped all the little misdemeanors on traffic. So it's like you don't have to have a license anymore or a number plate, and you can speed. And the reason why they've done it is insane, of course, but they've said that it's racist, which is the fucking tagline of like 2022, 2023, like everything's racist, right? And so anyway, they've said that they can't do that because it's like offensive to minorities. And obviously, you don't even have to be that intelligent just to think what's going to happen. Everyone's taking advantage of it. No one's got their shit together. The car's a piece of shit. People are breaking the law all the time. And so, you've got the healthy mentality of like, if you do something wrong, you take responsibility for it and you fix it. What's your thoughts, man, on just like this crazy ideology that's just going through the world? Because like one of the things that I think, you have and a lot of successful people have is like you hit hard times, and then hard times kind of teach you that if something's going to change, you're going to have to do it. But sometimes I think, I'm like, well, what about all these people that are hitting hard times and then they just blame the government? What happens inside their brains to think, it's everyone that's white's fault that I'm here, or something crazy like that?
It's a lot of programming. We know that for a fact. Look at what's going on with the world. The programming that's going into our youth, and even then, like I mentioned, I was programmed in from elementary to middle to high school that I had to get a degree to get a good job, right? And then spend another $250,000 in college to be in debt as soon as I get out to make $40,000 to $60,000 a year. It's that programming that's going into like imagine this, what's going to happen, just like they did, because Portland, I think, also legalized crack cocaine, heroin, and who knows what else they legalized over there. And look at what's going on, and it's insane. You give somebody an inch, they're going to take a whole mile. That's right. Also, people don't have the ability and the responsibility to take responsibility. That havoc is only going to create more problems, more of a situation where it's unsafe. And at the end of the day, look how many people either die or have consequences to those actions, all based off of an ideology of race. At the end of the day, we live in such a diverse world now, okay? We've evolved so many years. Now, there is things that still need to get fixed, but at the end of the day, to have that ideology that, okay, we got to take all these restrictions that keep people safe on the road away because you think it's racist. And why is it only hitting a demographic of a minority? Like, I'm considered a minority. Why would me having a driver's license and staying within speed be racist? It's like, it makes no sense. Like the lack of true free thinking and education has gone out the window. We are fortunate that we still have some people that still stand their ground, like myself and others, right? But in all reality, what good is going to come out of that? At all? Nothing. Can you think of one positive thing that will come out of that?
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah, the world's in an interesting place at the moment, brother. And I don't have kids. Matt has two beautiful children. I know you have two daughters, yeah? So
yeah.
I dare say it's probably a little bit more concerning for you guys. It's definitely concerning for me, but knowing that you're bringing up kids in a world that seems to have gone a little bit haywire, it must be wigging you out a little bit.
And that's the thing. Look, raising two daughters in this crazy, beautiful world that we live in, you can imagine the stress and the anxiety I get at times, right? But then I also understand that I got to get my house in order, like my boy Sean says, right? So I went and like, you have to get your house in order. You have to understand we are responsible to mold these young individuals into respectable, classy, authentic human beings.
Mm.
Okay. It's our responsibility. Keep the world understanding that, and also have an open dialogue with my kids. Like my kids are like, they actually love hanging out with their dad. Two girls that love hanging out with their dad. I mean, they're texting me every day. We're talking every day. We're communicating every day. And this is the beautiful thing about having those type of relationships. And the other part that has gone really haywire is the ability to have, whether it be a mother or father, have an open dialogue and communication with their kids. Age appropriate, within time, but understand this is not good. This is not, this is right. And this is based off of your household, your ethic beliefs, and your faith, you know?
Mm. So true, brother. And that really flows into my next question. As I said, true success is not only about the money, it's about the values and how you live your values with family and with giving, contribution, faith, all those elements. Can you just share a little bit? How do you manage your family life? Like, how do you prioritize the value of love, the value of family when you're so focused, so driven on all these other facets, running 6 companies, doing what you do best? How do you manage and really keep the family and the love element evolving and growing just as successfully as your businesses?
So one thing that I've always stuck true to is that I had probably the best lessons growing up. I learned what not to do. Okay, I do everything opposite of what my parents did. Everything. I mean, absolutely everything. I tell my kids I love them every day, and I'm sober. Like I hug them. I still nurture them. I still also communicate with them, and to really have a true understanding of this is I like using the word leverage. I don't have balance in my life, by the way. There's no such thing as balance. If I remember trying to chase balance and I was going nuts. I was going crazy. So especially because I want to be successful in business, but I also want to be a successful father. I want to be a successful husband. I want to be a successful brother. Like all that, right? So if I want to do something, I want to be the first and win at everything that I do. So I leverage my time. I leverage what I do. I'm very fortunate that I am in the entrepreneurship space, that I can create my schedule that allows me to align with my core values of my family. Because ultimately, my faith comes first, my family comes second, my business comes third. And that's it. If I rely on my faith, I'm going to be able to do ethical work and ethical practices. I'm going to be ethical with my kids. I'm going to be ethical with my wife. I'm going to have a secure life where I can go to bed and sleep at night. Secondly, that transitions to my business. I'm able to leverage every hour of the hour. I remember that I would have to work 50, 60 hours a week because I thought that's what a normal entrepreneur does. And I'm going to tell you it's opposite. Okay. You do have to put strategic time into your business, and you have to leverage every hour of the hour. Do not be spending time on this damn thing here, just going on stuff. Like when I go on Instagram, there's an intention for it. If I go on emails, I'm getting things done. I'm not just messing around, looking through things, shopping. Like every hour is accounted for because I told myself, as soon as my daughters were 4 and 5, I told myself, I don't want to work any weekends. Why? I want to be a family man. Monday through Friday, I still have breakfast with them in the morning. I take them to school. Then I start my day. That's why I wake up every day at 5 a.m. I go to the gym at 6. I train till 7:30. I come home, eat breakfast with my daughters, take them to school to 8:30. 8:30, go to the office, and then I'm working till 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Then I go home, eat dinner with my girls, with my wife, and I have between 7 and 11 family. And then I do that again Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday and Sundays, I do things with my family. That's just the way I operate. But I make sure that every hour, that from 8:30 to 7, every hour is accounted for. That's why, like, when we set this up, you handled it with my assistant, Julie. Like, literally, my schedule is on here, and I do this to the T, to the book. If you're not on my schedule, it ain't happening, because obviously it's not urgent or important. There's 2 categories in my life: urgent and important. Those are the only ones that go on my calendar. All the other stuff I can worry about later. So I leverage every hour of the hour, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. One of the things that you said just then is the categories of the hierarchy. So it's like faith,
Yeah,
family, business. That's the same hierarchy that I have as well.
yeah,
Um, I see a lot of power in prioritizing our faith because, like you said, it makes us do the right thing. The right
yeah,
thing in our family, the right thing in our world, and obviously that has ramifications in our family, with our relationships, with our kids, in our business. Everything comes back to us. You kind of can't get away with being an asshole. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you.
yeah, yeah.
When you were young, did you have a faith back then? Did you have something that was like, there's a bigger purpose here? There's something greater, or did you grow it as you got older?
I actually had it, but then it was very tarnished by my mother. So
Right.
I was born Catholic, and I believed in what was taught to me at the time. And then by the time I was 8, 9, my mother, because she wasn't mentally right. She was either bipolar. Like I said, I don't know. So she left at 12. So, but she had a lot of issues, and she dabbled in every faith. Like she would go to, I went from Mormon to Jehovah Witness to Christian to speaking in tongues, like all this stuff. So I got a little diluted after she left. I was really lost when it comes to faith. So one thing that I always remembered though, there's a God. And that God is what I need to understand. That He's always kept me in line. There's a reason why I'm speaking to you guys today. It's not me, it's Him. He kept me on this path. I could have easily been dead or in prison, right? And even if I would have went to prison there, I'm sure I would have ended up coming out and having a different life afterwards, because He keeps me in line. He has a path already written out for me. And I never second guessed it. I never questioned it. Now, as I got older, yes, it became even more prevalent of what exactly He was, because I got more in tune of exactly what my faith is and what I believe in, and what my conservative values are, and what my core values are as a man, as a family man, especially after having daughters, dude. All the way, because I had my daughters young. I had them at 25. My first daughter was born when I was 25, 26. My second daughter was born literally a year later. They're a year and 3 days apart. And that dove me even further to understand I got to mold these little things to become productive people in society. Holy shit, I got to get myself in order, right? But just like anything else, you have this contradiction with yourself, because I was still living a double life. I had this parameter of like, I wanted to follow His path, but sometimes I'd veer off and then I come back and then I'd veer off. And I never came back to it because I needed something. I came back because I felt guilty. And that's a good feeling. Like you
Yeah.
don't want to be sinning. You don't want to be doing things you're not supposed to. So you naturally gravitate back. And then every time I have, my life just gets better and better and better. And now with sobriety, it's even further. I'm in tune. I can't run away from anything. And if something happens, I pray. If something goes on, I pray. Like everything is a prayer first, then it goes into action. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing I can rely on, right? And if you do good, good things will happen. But also bad things can still happen even if you do good. But you have to have the ability. That's why they call it faith. It's the unknown. You have to believe. And what's happening to us, it's for us, not to us, right? Good or bad.
I love that, brother. I love that, and it's such a good philosophy. And again, it works. The way your
It does.
hierarchy, it works, and I think it's a really really successful way of living. So again, brother, hats off to you, man. You are on a huge journey right now. Things are just
Yeah.
skyrocketing. So good to see, brother. There's going to be more bumps along the road. We know that as
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, and again, you're mentally, emotionally, physically prepared to handle them. But what does the future hold for you? Like, what's the end goal at the moment with self made, and
Mhm.
also, does anything scare you at the moment? I mean, you've got this mindset, this epic perspective of like, hey, I fucking grew up on the
Yeah.
battlefield. I can handle anything. But as you go to I think you mentioned 200, 250 locations, whatever the goal is. What is the end goal for you, and what scares you the most right now?
Ultimately, it's Scare for me, fear, I use it as a motivating factor. So when I'm scared or fearful of something, it allows me to kick into gear, into action, and figure out the solutions to why that's occurring, right? My goal with franchising and the companies, all six of them, well, at least five out of the six, is to grow them as big as I could possibly do in the next 24 months. The focus is always going to be 24 months, 3 years, and 5 years. 24 months, I want 50 open and operating locations. I want to be able to have the number one private training facility in the United States, and then go into Beijing because we have a network that we're working with right now. They want to do a master franchise in Beijing and Hong Kong and go international. And I want to bring as many personal trainers as I possibly can with us to success because I think they're being very much devalued, unappreciated in that space when it comes to big box gyms or boutiques that just don't give them any resources or tools to be successful as entrepreneurs, not personal trainers. Okay. Then from there, there might be an exit. Just like any company, you build it to eventually sell, or I stay on forever. We don't know. That has yet to really hit my mind because I'm so focused on the growth and the value of the locations that I really want them to win versus really thinking about the exit. But if the opportunity presents itself and it's lucrative and I can still stay on board after the exit, then that's a possible goal. One of my biggest fears, right, is reality of what's going on with our world. Some of the stuff we can't control. Look what happened during COVID. I mean, literally, I was facing 10 years in prison, $500,000 in fine. Some of my were doing the same because we decided not to close down and we decided to educate ourselves, put in doctors for the testing, for the controlled environment. Like we did so much to stay open, right? Who's to say that happens again here in the next few years? And who's to say what the government decides to elect and pass laws that just makes no sense? That we have no control on. Even though they say, we have the ability to vote on this stuff, I'm telling you, the more and more you research and the more you see the truth, it's a very ugly truth. So my responsibility is to protect my family and my businesses. So as long as I can keep pivoting and moving forward, the goal is to get to 50 plus open locations. 250 would be the goal if I stay on, and really run because we can be in every state of the United States. We can. And once we go into international, what's going to happen? Brazil's going to want one. Hong Kong's going to do the third or second location. So that domino effect is about to come. And it's all based on helping other people become successful with education. Like I said, we're an institution of education. So the more I can help people get a little taste of success, I'm doing my part. Why? Because I come from a background where I had none of that. And if I can help other people achieve that, I'm doing something good. I'm doing something positive. I'm helping other human beings have the ability to be successful, not only financially, but emotionally, spiritually, because I lead by example. I truly believe in that. Like if I'm going to tell you health and fitness saved my life and I'm applying it to my life, I'm going to ask you to do the same, especially if you want that outcome. Just like my mentor told me about real estate, I look at his life as what I wanted and that's what I achieved. It's that simple. You got to think about it. We, the individuals that have achieved a certain amount of success, I would call it successful. I'm not done. I wouldn't call me super successful just yet. I just feel like I'm still barely scratching the surface. But if we, right, us here have the blueprint and say, here, follow this, basic fundamentals of success to allow your success to happen, why would you not do it? Yeah. Especially when it's proven.
So true, brother. It's very exciting, my man. It's very exciting. I have no doubt that you're absolutely going to get there, bro. Mate, we've almost run out of time. And again, I appreciate you logging on with us. But I want to ask one more question before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
I like to end with this question. If we could turn back time and you could give yourself some epic advice at a younger age, maybe that 16 mark, maybe that 14 mark, to really help you fast track some of those challenges, those issues that you faced growing up and make things a little bit easier to achieve, what lessons would you give yourself in order to do that?
Okay, I know this may sound either cliche or it may just sound like they're just saying this. Okay, and I've been asked this in a similar way, and my response has always been, I wouldn't change anything. Okay, I call this aggressively patience, like being aggressively patient. I aggressively want to pursue a goal and aggressively want to pursue this destination, but I'm patient enough to know when to receive it. This path was already created for me. So for me to go back in time and say, hey, I would trajectory change this to change Excel X, I would only fast track to something to have happen even worse or better. We don't know, right? But all the lessons that I've learned over the course of my last, let's say 42 years, or actually since the age of 12. So let's say 30 years. Okay. Every one of those things have taught me and it's who I am.
Mm.
And to change that DNA, 30 years later, or to fast track success sooner, I probably would have overdosed. I probably would have been dead. I probably would have been in prison. Because if I would have achieved the financial success that I have now at the age of 23, for sure I would have overdosed. Right. So for me to go back and look at that, say, okay, I wish I would have changed this to fast track it would almost do a disservice of exactly where I'm at today. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Such a good answer, my man. Such a good answer. And again, I think we all need to hear that sometimes. Patience. It's one of my
Yes.
my big things that I'm learning this year. I've got it everywhere at the moment. It's on my phone here. It's got a little lion.
No way.
It says where is it? It
That's
says
dope.
patience in the top corner. But I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, this is one of the lessons that we know we need to learn, but we just either don't want to learn it or hate
Bro,
to learn it or find it so hard to learn it because I guess it's that impatience that sort of gets us win sometimes, but it also makes us fall.
Bro, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But I want it now. Of course I fucking want it now. Right? But think about it, dude. It's like aggressively being patient. Like it's an oxymoron in a sense, right?
Right.
Because it's two different things. You're aggressively pursuing something, but then you're saying, I want to be patient enough to know when to receive it. So
Yes.
for you this year, I'm telling you, bro, when it's time for you to receive it, it's because it was meant to be received.
Yeah.
100%. That means that's going to trajectory you to a whole nother thing, to a whole nother peak of a mountain that you didn't even know was there.
Mm. I believe it, brother, and I have faith. My man, it has been an absolute honor and a privilege to have you on here. I've taken so much away from today, and I know all of our listeners and viewers are going to be doing the same. My man, where can our followers, our listeners find you and find out more about you?
So they can find me on Instagram, Selfmade Family Inc, Selfmade Inc, Selfmade Family Inc, Selfmade Family Inc, and then also Selfmade Training Facility is our HQ corporate page for Instagram, and then Facebook under Miguel Aguilar Selfmade, and then our website, which is selfmadetrainingfacility.com, has the additional tabs to reach all our other sites when it comes to our apparel, our equipment, and things of that nature. And that's where you can find me. And ideally, Instagram is where I put a lot of the information out there, especially free content, free information that allows people to really take these golden nuggets and run with them, because I think the more we do that is valuable. It's like we were placed on this podium, on this platform for a reason. And we can't be selfish with that. And ultimately, if you don't do that, you're doing a disservice to this world because we need to change this world in a positive directory because right now it's ugly to a certain degree. And we also have to teach the people that are coming up that, hey, the entitlement is not there. Like you need to go earn it. It is such thing. You have to work hard, but you can also work very strategic and have the ability to be successful if you put the effort.
So true, brother. So if you're listening to this, I hope you got some massive, massive motivation, golden nuggets, and some wisdom. If you love this episode, make sure you share, make sure you comment, make sure you pass this on to someone that needs this message because the world we live in right now, we need more of this for sure. Miguel, thank you so much, brother, for having us. Everybody listening, we'll see you on the next episode.
Alrighty, man. That's it. Done.
Yeah. I'll tell you what,
Done
Relentless,
deal.
it sums you up, brother. That is a fucking great story, dude. So good.
Yeah, thanks, bro. It's so wild. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, go to my Facebook page, and I have an album called Oldies but Goodies,
Yes.
and it's all the stories I just gave you. There's validation. Like we call those, like I said, receipts back in the day. If you don't have a receipt, it never happened. And for some reason, dude, at the age of 12, I tracked all this, dude. I have all the pictures that were pivotal in my life. I have my docket when I did 6 months in county jail for some stupid shit when I was younger. And I also have a letter from the Alvord Unified School District asking the grant department to issue me a grant or to give me any assistance to attend college. You know, so I tried. I made the attempt to go to college, so I don't discount it because back then, like I said, that's all we knew. It's like you either go to college or you're going the army, one or the other.
Yeah. So true, bro. Well, man, it's an epic story, brother. So good to connect with
Thank
you
you,
again,
brother.
dude.
Yeah,
We'll
likewise.
definitely going to come visit you when I head to the US again and catch up. But
And,
let's stay in
and
contact,
we'll
brother.
get some training in.
Yeah,
We'll get
man.
some training in, both you guys, man. It'll be dope. I see. Did you start doing gi or no gi jiu-jitsu, or what'd you start doing? I
Yeah,
just saw
I do
that.
both. I do both. I'm doing more no-gi
Well,
at the moment, but still
yeah,
getting the belts. I'm a baby. I'm a white belt still, but sort of
bro,
yeah,
it's
enjoying the journey,
the
brother.
best thing you could do. I started doing jiu-jitsu 3 years ago. I'm a purple belt now. I'm second in worlds last year. I took second in worlds, and the best thing I ever did for myself mentally, bro.
Yeah,
So
that's
keep
huge.
at it.
Yeah, thank you, my man. I will for
So,
sure.
all right, guys. You guys take care.
Thank you,
Yeah, you
bro.
too,
All
bro.
right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Both of you guys.
Cheers, bro.